Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this funky looking star. I call it the Funky Star, obviously. I'm also going to be experimenting with my homemade stain, and I'm also going to have plans available on Patreon for members and non-members. I know some people don't like the membership thing, so I've made them available for one-time purchases. And by the way, thank you to all my Patreon supporters. It's been a huge help to keep the channel going and keep the ideas flowing. Alright, let's get started. Now I'm using pallet wood for this project, but you can use any 1x4 that is 3.5 inches wide. Some of you might actually recognize this pallet wood. I used it for this project a few weeks ago. My flower star. I've got a full video on this if you're interested. Anyways, what makes this star so funky is that each point to this 5-point star is a different shape and a different length, which means when you're cutting the 5 pieces to your stock, they're all going to be a different length, and I've got the measurements here for you. I went ahead and cut these off camera, and I would recommend that you number these so you keep track of which piece is which. Now I'm going to cut this angle at 72 degrees using my miter saw. This is the angle we need for any 5-point star, no matter what shape or size it is. My setup is pretty simple. I've got my saw set to 54 degrees. I've got a zero clearance fence here. I've got a stop block set up. I marked the center of my board because that's where I'll be making the cut, and we're set to go. So I start by making one cut at 54 degrees, flipping this piece over, and making another cut. And there we go, it's that easy. So we've got one done. I'm going to do the rest off camera, but just a reminder, each one of these pieces are a different size, so you are going to need to readjust your stop block accordingly. And I usually like to do a dry fit at this point just to make sure things are fitting together properly. And thankfully this time, they were. Nice. I don't normally get this the first try, to be honest with you. Now if you have gaps when you're fitting yours together, it means you didn't get exactly 54 degrees on your saw, and that 72 degrees might be more like 71 or 73. I'll leave a link in the description on how you can fix those. It usually comes down to you not getting the exact 54 degrees on your miter saw, but it's a pretty easy fix. And now for the fun part. Now normally I would make a cardboard template so I could reuse these, but I may have sort of accidentally bought a 3D printer and I'm thinking about making templates with that. I know, I went there. I bought it with my own money too. No sponsorship. Anyways, I cut these out, I glued them on my matching piece, and now, ready for the bandsaw. This is pretty self-explanatory. Follow the dotted line. However, I don't know about you guys, but the dotted line was making me go a little cross-eyed. Maybe I need to check my eyes or something, but in the final plans, I think I'm going to change the dotted line to a solid line. I normally use a solid line, but I don't know. Try dotted this time. Anyhow, the bandsaw went smoothly. No problems there. Super easy to cut these curves. I kind of designed it that way so it wouldn't be too difficult. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can obviously use a scroll saw or a jigsaw. Really up to you guys. And I'll be honest with you guys, I did a dry fit off camera. I was really happy with how it was looking. It's actually a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I'll get the final measurements at the end of the video for you. Now the next step isn't 100% necessary, but I decided to add some bevels into this. I started with a 45-degree chamfering bit. But I wasn't really happy with the results. So I ended up switching to a 3/8 roundover bit, and this looked much better. I felt like the curvy star needed some curvy bevels. So I'm happy I did that. Now I will admit though, I don't know if it's because my bit was a little bit dull or what, but these pieces were wanting to kick back on me, especially on some of these curved parts here. So definitely be careful with that. I'm not sure what I was doing wrong. I'm hoping it's just because it was a dull bit. But yeah, there's definitely some kickback potential here. I went ahead and sanded these off camera. Didn't want to bore you guys. But these are looking nice and smooth, and now we're ready for assembly. Now for the assembly, you've got options. You can either do biscuit joinery, pocket hole joinery. I've done some loose tenon joinery in the past, which is maybe a little excessive. Or you can keep it simple and just glue a piece of plywood on the back. Personally, I like to tack everything together first with wood glue, wipe up the excess, let it dry, put a little masking tape on there for good measure, And then once it's dry, I will flip this thing over and reinforce it from the back using this. It's kind of like pocket hole joinery, but instead of using wood screws, I'm using dowels. And yes, these are bamboo barbecue skewers. Now I do have a full video on this as well if you want to know how to make these. And I actually find them very convenient to use. All my holes line up nicely. Once I glue them in, I trim them down, I sand them, and this is what it looks like. I feel like it's a neat and tidy way of doing joinery, and it's actually really strong. And now it's time to try my funky homemade stain. A cup of tea and vinegar with steel wool. I'll get to that in a minute. I start by painting my star with the black tea. This will add tannins to the wood. Then I paint over top of this with my vinegar and steel wool solution. Now this is steel wool dissolved in vinegar, and this makes something called iron acetate. Iron acetate reacts with tannins in wood. Now if the wood doesn't have enough tannins, it won't really turn gray the way this is. That's where the black tea comes in. There's a lot of tannins in tea, and I'm basically just adding those tannins into the wood. Anyways, there's actually quite a bit that goes into using this stain. It's not as simple as just applying it and you're good to go. So if you guys are interested in me making a full video on just vinegar stain, let me know. If there's enough interest, I might go on a deep dive there for you guys. Anyways, after a few minutes, it looks like this. And after a few hours, once it's dried, looks like this, quite a bit darker. Now I was going for something a little bit lighter, so I'm going to do a little bit of sanding here, which is going to lighten it up, but also expose a lot of the character from those cool saw blade marks. Alright, and just like that guys, we've got a very funky looking 5-point star. Now I don't know if you noticed this, but I actually have the star upside down right now. I know, I designed it to go this way, but I accidentally put it upside down at one point, and I was like, oh my god, I kind of like it better this way. I mean, it kind of makes sense that I was making a funky star, and by placing it upside down, it looks even funkier. And you probably noticed that these 3 pieces are slightly different color than these 2. That's a vinegar stain problem. If I had cut all my points using 1 piece of lumber instead of 2, this could have been prevented. Anyways, I'm not 100% sure I like how rustic this turned out. I still like the look of the natural wood like this one here, and I do like this level of rusticness over here on this 5-point star. Oh, and the size ended up being 13 inches wide and about 18 tall, depending on whether you put it upright or upside down. Alright guys, that's it for now. Get the patterns from Patreon, and I guess I'll just let you guys decide. Right side up or upside down. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.